Best VR game of 2022. The best game experience playable in virtual or augmented reality, irrespective of platform. Basically universal of just throughout everything, what game really outshined the most. Winner right here that is talking about is Moss Book 2. Definitely well deserved. I wouldn't say I have a valid argument for this. Obviously Quill Returns, the adventure that everybody loves. But this is kind of just all in all, if I were to really get through it, perspective of VR is right now and just the realm and the spectrum. That Moss Book 2 is one of the top correlations of virtual reality right now. It's good and bad depending on how you see the game, but you can tell that VR is very much still in a youth/teen format versus being able to have the deliverables for a grown audience. Now it's not bad. This is not bad. We're still in the newer perspectives of virtual reality and evolving and getting better and better. It was well deserved. The game, full functionality from beginning to end, the interaction, just the adventure, the puzzling, from PSVR, PCVR, Quest 2, just anywhere you want to know. Obviously they got a sequel for a reason. No matter how many updates we've had since Quest 2 and Quest Pro, still evolving into where we need to look more in depth. Mixed reality is still around the corner, hand tracking still around the corner. These are things that where a lot of these games would probably shine a lot more. Now Quest Pro recently releasing gives us some more intuition and how we're gonna look at in the future, although it's hella expensive. I don't think anybody wants to spend money on that right now, but that kind of gives that grown-up appeal, but not really gaming adventure experience that Moss Book 2 offers. So Moss Book 2 winning really does prove that Meta is still really focused in on the gaming essential. Now this is VR across the board, but I mean, this is a very popular game on Quest 2 also. Now let's look at the runner-ups. Red Matter 2, I thought, in my opinion, would be something that can really get to that next level, but I don't know. Maybe the graphics are amazing. The theme that's based in the Cold War aspect, it having its own sequel. Also, of course, I'll think some of the sequel games were definitely going to get the top VR game of the year. Red Matter 2 though has taken graphics and take some of the best graphics I've ever seen on a standalone. The way it's ported into the, well, not ported, but the way it's just going into the Quest 2, just phenomenal. And I had to say that I thought Red Matter 2 hands down was gonna win this. When I first seen it, when I was covering it a little bit, some of the news updates and more, I was like, yo, Red Matter is fire right now. The way it looks is smooth gameplay, and if you had A1 internet, you were gonna have a blast with Red Matter 2. But I think that was, if I were to say that's a number 2, I think that's gonna be number 2 as a runner-up, a finalist. I didn't know this is just the official game awards, and so yeah. Of course, we want to talk about Bone Lab. Bone Lab was my favorite personally, which I thought would win immediately. Bone Lab, it just wasn't released long enough, but neither was Red Matter 2 or Among Us. So their fact that they're on the finalists, I don't think it really cares as far as the like the in-depth longevity they had being released as a game. But yeah, Bone Lab, of course, the Boneworks aspect, the same universe, everything's going down. It did have a rough launch. People didn't favor it too much. It could have been perhaps too overrated or just not enough content at launch. Just how you take it how it is. If you have an open mind and you weren't too in depth with Boneworks, then you thought Bone Lab was incredible. Now, I'm not a huge diehard fan of Boneworks, but I know their stan community, their cult community, like Boneworks, they were pissed off just due to Bone Lab, like what I said, having that shortened format of content and it just not being able to have the full performance. But you're comparing PC VR to a standalone Quest 2, and of course you're gonna have the differences, and there's a huge hinge as to why it was compared so much. Obviously same creator, but what Stress Level 0 did for us in this creation, Bone Lab was just incredible. Still, if you look at it as its own experience and not comparing it to Boneworks VR, it was just phenomenal. Everything they delivered to us, it was fun. Story wasn't as long, but still a great game overall. I feel that that's definitely well deserved being here. After the Fall is one of my personal favorite games. Zombies, you get your Left 4 Dead appeal, you get to run a co-op, a 4-player co-op, and you just go and kill zombies. I play this game still to this day, and people always ask me day in, day out, like, what game are you playing, Tim? What game are you playing? And it's always After the Fall. It's such a fun game to create content, to just do what you love, and you can really escape. You got a horde. You also do PvP actually now in some of their updates. You can actually play against like a team deathmatch type situation. And then like what I said, the horde, you can do timely stuff. You can do an actual harvest run like what you'll do in Left 4 Dead or Back 4 Blood, where you just go throughout their mini campaign on their maps. You unlock those maps as soon as you're able to do it. They have like a very easy mode all the way like crazy nightmare horror mode, which is like insane. And it's fun. They have their own bosses, and it was really buggy at launch, but they've been smoothing it out with updates. A game that I feel falls under the radar, but is well enough, well deserved right here for sure. I never really hear it on people's top favorites though. After the Fall definitely is so fresh, especially for zombie lovers out there. I'm glad that there's a zombie one right here, because Resident Evil 4 is not on here, and that definitely makes me cry. Among Us VR is the last one I'll be talking about on this list. The more the recent release, and this was definitely something that people could not wait for. At launch, people didn't like it. There's a lot of criticism of it, maybe a lot of hype, kind of like the way Bone Lab was. Bone Lab and Among Us were like highly anticipated. They just didn't live up to all that hype. They had some bugs at launch and just some favoritisms and a lot of comparisons. I think when you're coming over to a VR realm, Bone Lab coming over from a Boneworks PC VR, Among Us coming from that 2D perspective that everybody was used to, that people got extremely famous off of, you expect just some comfort, recognition, some similarities. But I think in VR, you definitely have to adapt to a lot more of a different component. And I feel sometimes they just don't deliver it enough for the audience, or especially for a mainstream audience to want to like put on their VR headset and play these virtual reality games. Among Us, I thought was going to do that, especially with a younger audience. They kind of failed at it, but they're getting better. They're having some fun updates coming around. They're really involved with the community. I still think for them to make this top 5 is still dope. So Among Us is killing it. So in my aspect, if I were to have this top 5, of course, I'm not going to go with Book 2, Moss Book 2 as my number 1. I would probably have done Red Matter just due to overall performance gameplay. Then I would have done Bone Lab, After the Fall, Moss Book, and then Among Us VR. If I'm just thinking about that, but Moss Book has the better story and campaign essential, and obviously a sequel. But yeah, that's kind of mine if I'm just looking at a die-hard, just jump in, accessibility, play. I gotta let me know y'all's 5 on this list right here, and leave some comments in the comment section below. I appreciate y'all so much, man. Have a good one. Peace.